What's going on, Kevin? How you doing? So, I just want to go over AYRO today and kind of talk about, what I saw today and why I traded it and go over it completely so that way you can kind of see from my perspective what I saw and maybe it vibes with you, maybe it doesn't. But there's one thing I want to do with this channel that I'm going to try to focus on a lot more, and that is I want to create content that helps change the community. It's about giving everything you can. It's about sharing everything behind the curtain, peeking through the curtain without any just guru sales pitch or anything like that. I want to change the community to where people can give back and people can help others. And you guys have been inspiring me a lot because you help each other answer questions in my comments, and I really appreciate it. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of people who are just throwing hate. It's more of help. And that's what I want to do with this channel. I'm going to continue to do that. So AYRO, first off, it's electric vehicle sector, right? It's been hot. It's been moving like crazy. And because of that, we got, that's Alexa. Sorry, Alexa. No need, Alexa. Because of that, AYRO was spiking like crazy today, right? I mean, we have a stock that was up from $3 all the way up to $9 today. And granted, not in one day, in several days, but today it went from 6 to 10. So why was I watching this? Well, first off, whenever I'm looking for a stock, I'm looking for something that's moving, something that has a lot of volume relative to normal days. So I look at RVOL. It's something I started looking at a lot lately because I just want to see how it coincides with what I trade. And typically when I trade small caps, the RVOL is in the thousands. It's so dumb. But at the end of the day, that's what you want to see. You want to see high relative strength, relative volume compared to previous days. And so I saw that sticking out. And because of that, I was interested in this ticker today. Now, at first, the first thing that I did, I wanted to look at the float. And when I looked at the float today, I was like, it's about 9.7 million, 10 million shares float. And pre-market, I already traded the float. And that's something that I like to stay on top of mind, right? I like to understand that if float has rotated, there's a good chance that we're going to have high volatility because everyone's exchanging shares, right? There's people buying low, selling high, people selling high, buying low. And there's so many exchanges of hands of shares that we have that float rotation. And therefore, when it chooses a direction, it's going to go whipsaw, like it's going to go fast in one way or the other. And that's something that, well, I know because of years of trading unsuccessfully and successfully now that all of those bad times I've experienced, I now know this is how you should trade these kind of stocks, at least for me. Understand that rules are made for that individual. So one of my rules is I need to size in appropriately for a stock that is rotating so much. So that's what I had up at the beginning before I even jumped in the trade. But now that's the thought process. Float rotated. The float was 10 million. Electronic vehicle sector. That's why it's up. There's no news on this stock at all. There's not one piece of news. I looked, didn't see anything, and I was like, you know what? Then I drew on the daily. There is major resistance here. Over 200 million shares in the A18 areas. So that's the first thing I went ahead and did. And let me get rid of these executions, and then I'll show them once I explain my trade. So I drew this out first. Then once I did that, and actually I don't think you can even see the freaking chart, can you? Can you see the chart? There you go. All right, guys. Can you guys see the chart? Hopefully you can. What's going on, Kevin? What's going on, Trump? What's going on, Nick? What's going on, Rodrigo? I appreciate you guys being here. Appreciate all of you guys. So now you can see my chart. So I drew the major resistance right here at 818. Now, I drew that, but I wasn't going to say, hey, I'm just going to short this just because we have major daily resistance. That's not the process that I had. In fact, we opened around 750s, which is pretty close to that major resistance with the volume that it had. So I had a feeling we could squeeze. But let me show you what I saw pre-market. So pre-market, bear with me while I move all this junk around. Pre-market, this is all pre-market. Now pre-market, the first thing that I saw was this trend building. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, well, we have a trend building. And because of that, that's going to be some kind of signal that lets me know, are we on the back side or on the front side? Because we are still on the front side pre-market, I was not interested in shorting this right away. And during this action where it spiked up to 850, came down to 8, then spiked up to 850 again, I was watching it very closely. And the reason why I was watching it very closely is because we have a resistance area here in the 850s. 50 cents, dollar mark. That's just a key area that a lot of people like to short just because they think it's just a key area. But I was paying attention to it because it is important to a lot of people. So thank you so much, Pedro. Now, whenever we start to get this rejection and we had volume come in to push up and actually go, when we had that volume come in and we couldn't break high a day, let alone, we broke it by like what? 3 pennies? So, sorry, I keep pressing. So when we broke it for 3 pennies, I was like, you know what? This is a weak breakout pre-market. It's already rotated its float and start to fade. So I took a starter position when it broke this pivot point right here at this $8. I got in because I thought, this could be the initial change of the trend, because now we have a double top pre-market. And the reason why it's significant is because we had so much volume. That's what matters. Like, not because it just had a double top pre-market. If it had a double top pre-market and it had 100,000 shares, maybe. But if it had 50,000 shares, no way. But because it had millions of shares, it had over 10 million shares traded, there's good reasons for me to use these levels as key levels, right? Because there's so much volume. So whenever we failed this 8, I got in short. And I was risking about 850. I think I was 851, just slightly above this area, right? Because I didn't want to give it too much wiggle room, because if I thought if it is going to be backside, then I should be right pretty quickly. And then when we got this fade down here and we broke this pivot, that's when I got really confident. And I don't remember if I added here at this pivot, but let's find out. No, I was actually covering. So I actually started covering at this resistance or support, because this trend line, I wasn't sure if it was going to hold or not. And when we broke it, I covered some more and covered the rest, all of it, right before the open. And here's why I covered it before the open. Because it's already rotated its float. So there's a high probability that this thing's going to be wild, up and down. And because there's a high probability of that, I am going to be extra careful, and I'm going to look to short on pops, cover on dips, right? So at the open, when we got the open and we popped up, I started shorting it. And I felt very confident. I already took profits along the way down, and I was still risking, I think now at the open, I was risking about 880, because I wanted to give it some range, because I know float can rotate, and because it rotates, it can squeeze quickly. And we can have fake breakouts of like break 850, but go to 870 and then fell. I know you guys have seen that. So I'm sizing in risking 880s, because I want to make sure that I'm not going to get, tricked out by the stock. And so when I'm shorting these initial, shorts right here, I'm risking $1 a share, and I'm okay with that because I had that going in. And so when we had this pullback here, and then we, resistance is 850s, I started thinking, you know what, I may want to use this 850 level, but it is early still. Like, I don't want to adjust my risk so quickly whenever I first get in a trade, because especially in the first 30 minutes, because there's a lot of just uncertainty. There's a lot of people nervous, a lot of people buying, a lot of people covering, a lot of people shorting. It's just so much emotion. And so I kept my risk the same, even though I started adding shares. And then when this happened, we got another pop. I started adding more shares, because I started thinking, you know what? I'm still risking the 880s, but I feel good about this trade at this point. Now, when we got this next pullback where I took my first cover, I adjusted my risk to the 850s. And that's because I don't want to see a stock that is showing me that I'm right? It's showing me that we have some kind of like downtrend right now, right? And we also have lower highs, and we have massive volume, and we have a key resistance here, right here in the 820s, right? I believe it was like somewhere right here. I showed you on the daily, remember? So because of all of that, there's a lot of reasons why I should be comfortable right now. Now, the only reason I'm uncomfortable is because it's rotating its float. When it rotates its float, it can just be wild, and you guys know this. You've seen it so many times and so many tickers. Just look up KBIO, Kodak, MIA, I believe it was, or Mara, and there's just so many stocks out there that have done this. So let me show you what happens next. Then we start to go out throughout the day. I'm still short, and we get this pop. When we get this pop to the 840s, I didn't get stopped out. Why? Because I was risking 850. And, you know, I missed an opportunity to add there, and that's okay, but I didn't miss an opportunity to cover. When we dropped, I started covering just small pieces, guys. Small pieces. Like, if I had 100% position, I was only covering like 25% max out of those 3 covers. Because in my eyes, this is set up that I want to hold for a late day fade. For it to fade, maybe go down another $1. I didn't want to cover until it got below 7. But I was just taking pieces because I didn't know that what it was going to do, but I did know that there was an opportunity that it could squeeze, it could go higher, and it could definitely just skyrocket. And so because of that, excuse me, my dog just came in the room. But because of that, let me close this door real quick. So because of that, I wanted to play it safe. And instead, whenever it started to spike again, I felt at this point, it shouldn't break high day. So I started shorting, and I got much bigger at this point. And when we squeezed through high day, I immediately got out because I knew that if this breaks high day, we're going to squeeze a lot of short sellers who are too comfortable and confident like I was, right? I would start shorting more. Now, because of my risk management, the one thing that I'm definitely really great at is cutting my losses. When I'm wrong, I'm out. Like, there's no question, I'm done. What's up, Simon? Thanks for being here, buddy. And I was just out, and I was done for the day. And I let it do its thing. I let it continue to run, and I did not want to short it. Because one thing that I've learned throughout my trading career is if I'm wrong on a stock, and I have a plan and a thesis, then I'm wrong. And there's a high probability that I should be on the other side of this trade. In this case, long. And I was looking to long an opportunity, but there was an opportunity for me to buy long. There was one time, which I'm going to show here in a minute, but I don't like trading midday, so I ignored it. But in this case, whenever we started to come back down, this is what I was looking for. I want to wait a significant time to see what is a stock telling me. I know it's strong. It's already telling me that it's a strong stock today, that you got to be careful. Hey, Alex. Yeah. So on that when I got stopped out, since I added size, I broke even on that trade. Now the trade's not over yet. I'm going to show you another entry. It's coming. But whenever that stock broke and broke high day, stopped me out, I was okay with that. And I said, you know what? I'm going to watch the stock and I want to see if it forms a trend. And guess what? It definitely did. If you go down further, let's switch the time frame to a 2 minute. And you'll see here, so you'll see this trend that whenever it broke, it showed me, hey, it's time to get in this, buddy, because we have a lot of long biased traders who are now expecting this to continue its uptrend, to continue to squeeze. Because if I'm long, here's the opportunity that I'm looking for. Let me go back to what I was showing you earlier before we showed that. So whenever we got this dip right here, you'll see this dip right here is the only opportunity that I was looking to buy it. But we're also midday, 12 o'clock, that's midday. I don't want to trade midday, so I ignored it. In fact, one of my buddies, Scott, who's on V Traders, who actually was on the show, and I interviewed him. He's a very good trader. He's been helping me on big caps, which I've been killing it lately. Or if you've been following the show, I've been trading big caps on paper account, not my real account, because I want to get better at it, right? But this was an opportunity to buy, and I decided not to buy it because I am still short biased in my head. I just didn't want to flip right away. And I also didn't trust it. And when it went ahead and continued, I was okay with it. I was like, you know what? I missed the dip buy. And then it dipped again, held perfectly, and then we broke. When we broke the trend, that's when I felt good, because I know that if I was longing it on this trend, then I expect it to hold. And not only that, but let me explain some things. Whenever I got in short, I didn't get in full size right away. Then we looked like we were turning, right? We went up to the trend line test, came back down, so I added some more shares. I wasn't full size yet, but what was I risking? Let me show you what I was risking. At the time of my entry, I was risking 940. So I had wide risk on this, but I also thought, if this is a big picture play and we finally are breaking trend and we're overextended and people are finally going to start to have a reason to get out, because there's no news on this thing, the longs are finally going to have a reason to sell, there's going to be some big pullback. Now, I am not 100% sure it was going to work. I wasn't, because let me show you something. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, you know what? I don't personally care too much about VWAP, although it is there on my chart on DAS. It's not on my Thinkorswim charts. What I was thinking is, we broke high day and we support it. So there's a possibility we're going to support there. So I was kind of wary, and that's why I was like not confident, but I still sized in. I still sized in full size, but I was sizing in the full size at this trend because I wanted to get a good entry. And so when we popped up, I sized in more. And at this point, I started to risk right above this pivot, because I thought, you know what, if we break above this pivot after breaking the trend, then I'm wrong. And I got to be okay with being wrong. I got to be okay with being wrong. I got to stand up, guys. This is like annoying me. So I got to be okay with being wrong. So whenever it went ahead and continued to consolidate, yes, was I nervous a little bit? Absolutely. I was definitely a little nervous because it was not breaking down as quickly as I wanted. Now, here's what I'm happy about. I did not cover on this little U shape right here, because there's been so many times when I first started trading, I would cover because I get nervous. I get scared that it would not, it would not work. And how many of you guys have felt that way? And then all of a sudden it works out for you and you get pissed off. Well, one way not to let that happen is you stick to your plan. And I stuck to my plan. I said, the only thing I should not see is it break above this 925 area. If it does that, then I'm completely wrong. And it's going to squeeze. And we're going to squeeze all the shorts who are joining me on this play. But instead, we got the flush. Now, went ahead and covered some right here at this last, because it broke down here to 860. Covered some more at this 840s, because 850s was holding, as I showed you earlier. And then covered the rest at 820s, because I just wanted to cover. And I was done with the trade. Now, I'm up on the trade on the day. Yes, because this was a break even though I took profits, but I sized in big here, took it all off, and then waited for my trade. I waited all day for this to show itself, for it to tell me what I need to do, when I need to enter, instead of just guessing. Because at any moment, you could have just said, let me just short here because of this crack. But I've seen so many times that when it's a strong stock, it's a strong sector, the longs are in control, you could easily have seen this hold and continue to go higher. So I'm not in the game of predicting. I'm in the game of reacting and letting the chart tell me. So I hope this helps you guys see what I saw and why I traded the way I did. If you have questions, feel free to ask. I'll probably give it a couple of minutes because I do got to go. But real quick, Arson, you think this is ridiculous? EV run will continue next week? Arson, I don't know, man. I really don't. What I do know is I'll be watching it. I've been longing in IO. I've been longing Tesla. I've been shorting Tesla. I've been doing a lot of things with the electronic vehicle sector. What I appreciate is that it's moving and that I can trade it. So that's the way I think. I don't think of how long is it going to last. Although, I do think that, we're going to have another Tesla one day, because you don't just have one electronic vehicle. You don't just have one vehicle sector. When the first General Motors or whatever, maybe it was Ford, whoever was the first isn't the last. There's always another competitor, and there's always another competitor, and people copy each other. That's what we're gonna get. Nikola was not that one. Nikola cracked, and IO may be that one. It may not be, but it is what it is. I mean, I just want to just trade what I see. Cool, Simon. On your IDX, dope, man. Excuse me. Absolutely, Nick. No problem, brother. Simon, hey, man, you have a good weekend too, man. No, hey, I appreciate that. You think FSR will compete with Tesla? Let's look at FSR. I can tell you right now that, I mean, I haven't looked at this stock really. I think I did trade it a while back when it first opened right around here and bought this breakout and sold into the spike. But other than that, no. Cool, guys. Well, here's what I'll say. I appreciate each and every one of you. I did record a new episode going more in depth on the AYRO about like the market cap, the flow, what I was looking at, the news with the electronic vehicle sector. That's going to come out soon, so stay tuned for that. And do me a favor, man, if you like this content, make sure to share it with other friends, other traders, because my goal is to change the community about making traders who want to help other traders. So thanks so much, guys. And let me see. Rodrigo, once the trend breaks, if it's short, I usually have trouble getting a good RR. How do you set up your stops for a good RR? So basically, Rodrigo, what do I do? I'll show you what I did. So let's go for this example. Let's get rid of the trades for a second. Let's get rid of all this. So first thing, whenever you see this trend break, if this trend breaks right, if this trend breaks right, then let's pull up another one that let's just pull up. You know what? Let's pull up. Here's XPEV. Let's say that you see this strong trend right here. So we get the trend break, right? And when we get that trend break, what I would say is this. If you're going to size in, it depends on your own risk tolerance. You don't want to just say, some people prefer to risk high a day because it makes them more comfortable. They're not going to get faked out. But for me, it all depends. Like if I may risk 13, in this case, if it broke this 1557, I'd probably be risking 56.20, maybe even 56.30, but right around there. And at that point, you're risking, what is that? Almost $1 a share, but it went all the way down to 51.80. So there's definitely a good risk reward there. Now, I want you to know that I'm no longer just thinking 3-1. Just to let you guys know, I'm thinking more so of what's the highest odds that I'm going to be right? And then is there enough reward to justify the risk? And I know for a while, if you've been following for some time, I'm always talking about, I was always talking about 3-1 only. And I'm glad I went through that because it taught me how to hold when I'm right. And now I can hold when I'm right. So that's how I think about it. Like if this broke, this 55.50, and I'm terrible at math, I'm going to pull up a calculator. So 56.30 risking, you get in at 55.50, 80 cents, right? And it comes all the way down to 51.80. So that's $3.70 divided by 80. That's 4 to 1, 4.5 to 1. That's great risk reward, guys. And if you covered along the way, you might get 2 to 1, 3 to 1. So that's how I look at it. And the other thing is you got to make sure, Rodrigo, that you're watching stocks that have a lot of volume, right? Because if you're not watching stocks that have a lot of volume, you're not going to have a lot of range, right? That's important to know. What's up, Edwin? KXIN. I mean, I'm not into predicting, but I'll at least check it out real quick. Let's see. KXIN. Ooh. I was watching this today, but I had no trade on it. Wasn't this the one? No, I was looking at KNDI. I was not watching this. So immediately, what I see on this, we're spiking up, right? We have a lot of volume. Is there news on this? I don't know. I'll have to check it up. But just based on the chart, It's definitely a strong stock right now. I wouldn't just say it's a short right away, but I definitely say right now, this is a strong stock. So if there's news behind it, which I'll look up, if there is news behind it and there's a reason for it to be up, and then let's say we have a major support area. Let's just say tomorrow, let's just say a Monday, this consolidates all day and after hours and bounces around here and it starts to hold, maybe a long. But like, this is why you can't predict moves. What I can tell you is right at this moment, it is a long trade. Like, I am not going to short this. I'm not interested in shorting this. And I know some people are going to be like, yo, it's up from $3. It's up 100%. That means nothing, because how many of you guys who've said that, and I was included in this batch, where it's up 100% and it goes up another 100%, then another 100%. Because people who short, they're just shorting it because they say, oh, it's down or it's up too much. Like, that's not the right way, in my opinion. But at the same time, look, that's what I see. So I'm not interested in trading this yet, but I am watching it, and I will watch this on Monday. I may trade it Monday. But like, what I'll be looking for is it going to hold this strong price action? If it does, it's a long. But if it starts to break this price action, then I may look at shorting this. But as of right now, it is overextended. I keep that in mind. And because it's overextended, and let me pull up the news real quick, because now I'm very curious. You got me all here wondering. KXIN, it's a 1 million float. Oh, Jesus. I hate these. Insider sales auto shares. Okay, well, that was like 3 days ago. And Yahoo Finance, let's see what they have to say. Okay, so there's no news on this, really. There's no news on this. Is this electric vehicle by chance? Anyone know? It's a used car dealership in the Republic of China. Interesting. It is vehicles. It probably, I'd be very wary of buying this. I'd be watching it. I will be watching it. And depending on what the price action tells me in the pre-market, it will determine am I going to be long buys or short buys. So, yeah, Nebs, no news, brother. Yeah, absolutely, Rodrigo. No news, but they're selling cars in China, so EV boom will help them. Yep, that's what I'm thinking, Trump. That's probably why, but at the end of the day, like, I don't have a plan for it other than let me see what price action tells me. Let me see, if it builds support here at the 580s, after hours and pre-market, and then this trend line holds and they both are holding, then I'm going to long it, because I don't care if there's tons of volume too, right? If there's a lot of volume, if tomorrow or pre-market, there's no volume, right? And there's 10,000 shares traded all pre-market, that means I'm probably going to ignore it because there's not going to be any volatility, and I need volatility. Global videos, the float was like 10 million, and the market cap, I don't recall off the top of my head. I believe, let's go find out. 196. All right, guys. So just to let you know, I appreciate everyone being here. I appreciate you asking your questions. I appreciate you watching the review. If you're late to this episode or to this show, no worries. It will show up after it renders and you can watch it as a replay. But I will have more of these coming soon because I want to be able to provide as much value as I can and make videos that you wish your guru made, So thanks so much, guys. You have a wonderful day.